You know, there's something really satisfying. Maybe even therapeutic, but definitely satisfying about gathering wood. It's finally warming up out here a little bit. It's like I don't know, I think it's supposed to be 15 degrees below 0 Celsius. That's pretty close to the same Fahrenheit, I think. Uh, it's cold, but it's the warmest day in a couple weeks, so I'm out here getting some wood and looking at some mule deer. A herd I seen yesterday moved over a couple miles. They're up and moving right now. So, you know, I'm just I got a nice little spot here. Some trees that are big line of trees next to this gravel road here that are all dying for some reason. I don't know if they're just at that age or if it's something to do with this neighboring field here. But, or, you know, disease, of course. They're all rotting out from the center and falling down whenever the wind blows really hard. But they're, you know, they're pretty old trees. I think there's a lot of it's just not getting proper moisture and you know, their age and what have you. So yeah, this is part of my life, you know, just gathering wood. It's I really enjoy, you know, just getting out. It's a really nice balance of doing it just enough so you don't really get sick of it, even though it is, you know, pretty monotonous and a bit of a chore. It's somehow really enjoyable. You know, I got my my old pickup here. This truck I picked up for about $1,300. This is a '93 Ford Ranger. Got some big old swamper tires on there. It's two-wheel drive. This truck I picked up about 4 years ago, and you know, between my truck and my car, which I've both had paid off for years now, I only bought them for a couple $1,000s, and they, well, you know, obviously I'm a mechanic, so that makes things easier for me, keeping them running, and it's cheap, and you know, if I ever have to do repairs or anything. But I haven't had to do any repairs, luckily. And the maintenance, over 4 years, we're talking maybe $1,000, and I pay liability insurance, which saves me just a ton of cash. Not having a car payment and cheap on fuel. I couldn't recommend that sort of scenario more for anybody. You save so much money, and I love this truck. I couldn't imagine having anything else. You know, sure, if I had all kinds of money thrown at me, I would probably buy a brand new Tacoma, or you know, get maybe a little bit of a sportier car. But this is what it is. I'm perfectly happy with what I got, and I save a lot of money. So that's, you know, just part of my lifestyle. And whatever works for you, right? So I better get at this job here, though. Well, that's about it for today. You know, the dogs love it out here. Definitely worse things I could be doing. It's not a bad load I got there. It's that's about all I should be throwing on there anyway. I got another little trailer that I built that is primarily for hauling the quad and hauling a little bit extra wood. Fits the quad perfectly. It's got 2-foot high sides on it. It's a nice little setup for this pickup. If whenever I go up to the mountains to grab firewood, I can stack both of them up, and that's about the tow capacity and the carry capacity for the pickup when I stack it up with big, heavy mountain pine. So that's definitely not as warm as we expected it today, but I suppose I'd be a fool if I expected anything different. So you know, well, I'm a fool. But, you know, there's actually one thing I was thinking about with the electric vehicles, and I'm all about the electric vehicles. I think they're pretty cool. But trouble we have in Canada here is it gets really cold. You know, this was a really unusually warm season, followed by a really unusually cold February. And the trouble, you know, obviously the wealthier people that are buying these cars right now have the heated garages and so forth, and don't have to probably park these vehicles at job sites for, you know, 12, 16-hour days. But one of the problems for, you know, the generic public that don't have garages is what do you do with these cars when you have stretches of minus, you know, more than -10 for sometimes months, you know, at least weeks. Definitely have spurts where it's at least once a year we'll have a couple of weeks where it's more than -20 Celsius, obviously, being Canadian. And you know, it just doesn't work. So, you know, that technology isn't really going to work for us Canadians. The reason I got thinking about that, for, you know, I'm talking about the lower income Canadians, but the reason I got thinking about that was the wood burning stoves. I here in Quebec, which gets fairly cold, and see, you know, has, from what I hear, a fairly long history of smoked meats and different cuisines of that nature, and the ice fishing and so forth. Has a very strong history of wood burning, or solid fuel stoves, and they outlawed it from what my understanding. So I find that really strange in Canada, especially being, if we ever had a major natural disaster, these wood burning stoves are what saves a lot of people, saves their homes. You know, we're talking burst pipes, we're talking you know, loss of life potentially. Having wood burning stoves in your homes is, I would say, should be a staple of Canadian living. Really, it's strange to me. So I hope they don't try to do that nationwide, and I hope they repeal that actually in Quebec, because I feel like, you know, even if maybe, you know, one or two people, you know, on a block have wood burning stove, at least you have, you know, community shelters that people can stay at during power outages. And you know, if we ever have like a serious natural disaster, if one of these crazy things actually happens that we don't even maybe see coming, we're completely unprepared for, wood burning stoves could save so many lives. And from what I understand, it's what is it? It's not a positive or a negative on the carbon scale. It's carbon neutral, from my understanding. So maybe that's something to think about, anyways. Something that definitely bounces around my head quite a bit.